Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Yoder of Coriander Quilts, and today we have the fun of making our next block for the Sunny Patches block of the month. This is the Sunny Greek square block. We're going to make one of these this month. The pattern is now available to download over on my blog, Coriander Quilts. So go grab a copy of the pattern, meet me back over here. I'm going to be walking you through how to piece this block. This one is made using my beautiful day line of fabric. And for today's tutorial, I will be using Sun Washed to piece another one of these. They're a lot of fun to piece, and I think we're going to be having so much fun. Our pattern for today is a 3-page pattern. And I want to talk about the cutting instructions first. I had mentioned in a previous video, as well as in a blog post, that our blocks for this mystery block of the month many of them have a beginner-friendly option and then a more intermediate option. So as you look at our Sunny Greek square block right here, you'll see it has a smaller pieced center and then a larger border that is very similar to the piece center, but in larger pieces. Now, for most of these blocks, if you want to, you can skip this smaller pieced center and substitute it with a solid piece of fabric. And so as you are looking at your pattern, you're going to notice little starred sections. Those starred sections refer to how to simplify the block. So for this block, if you wanted to, you could substitute a 3.5-inch background square for this center pieced portion, and then you would follow the starred portions. For today, that means that you would not need to cut your A, your B, or your D, all of those starred pieces. You do not need to cut any of those if you wanted your block to look like this right here with no pieced center. If you want your block to look just like this block and like this up here, just ignore those starred sections. That just gives beginner quilters the option to simplify these blocks if they want to. And for those of you that are doing that, just follow the stars throughout the pattern and you will be all set. So you will go ahead and cut your pieces. I have all of my pieces cut over here using sun-washed fabrics. And let's just go ahead and move right on to the piecing. The first thing that we're going to do is piece that center. Now you might be skipping this option. You'll see the star here noting that if you are not doing that pieced center, you're going to skip to step number 3. So that might be you. If you are piecing the center, you're going to grab your B piece. Let's just move these over and we'll lay this out. Grab your B piece and then your D pieces as well. And we're going to be sewing these together just like so. And I'm just going to lay out this whole little center portion. This is a pretty simple, straightforward block to sew, so it's going to come together pretty quickly. And then you also need your A piece. And that is going to go right in here. So you will sew together your top row, your bottom row. These get pressed towards the center. And then when you sew together these 3 rows, you're going to be pressing these seams also towards the center. I am going to sew that together. I am also going to grab my C and my E strip and sew those together at the same time. If I can, I like to do as much sewing and pressing at my sewing machine as I can at one time. So I am going to sew these 2 strips together as well. You can see that in step number 3 here. We're just sewing these 2 strips together. And then I'm going to meet you back here. We're going to be subcutting this unit into smaller pieced units. And then we're almost ready to complete our block. This is going to be a pretty fast one to piece. This is our block center. It should measure 3.5 inches square. And then this is the strip set that we now need to subcut. You can see here in step 3, or rather in step 4, we're subcutting this strip set into 3.5-inch chunks. I am just going to go ahead and do that. You will have a little bit of room on each end to trim up your edges. And then 3.5-inch chunks after that. Another thing I wanted to mention too while I am trimming this up is that if you have extra fabric left when you are cutting your pieces initially for each block every month, if you have those little extra bits left over, just hang on to those. You may be able to use them in an upcoming block, so hang on to those. Tuck those away with your pieces and your fabrics so that you have them handy. And one more 3.5-inch square. And there we go. So you can see I had just a little bit of fabric here and this other little piece from my front end. So you'll have a little bit of scraps left over. You don't need to worry about saving those. Those are fine to get rid of, but your larger pieces of fabric that you might have for when you were cutting your pieces initially, do hang on to those. All right, let's go ahead and lay out the rest of this block. Let me make a little bit of space here. Grab my centerpiece. You can see what we're doing. We're taking that centerpiece and then these strip sets that you cut, these are going to go around the edges on each of the sides of the center. You'll want that red or whatever your contrast fabric is towards the center. Move these up so you can see everything here. There we go. That looks better. And then this guy here, your F squares are going to go in the corners. So we'll put those in here. And then we're going to sew these together. Now in the pattern, you'll see on any of my patterns that I always have pressing arrows included. So if you ever need to reference which way to press these, you start by laying everything out. And then the next step is to sew together all of our horizontal strips, and we are pressing away from the center for the top and the bottom rows, and then towards the center on this row right here. And then after we have those 3 rows sewn together, when we sew the complete center portion together, we're going to press those 2 seams away from the center. This is what your block now looks like. And here is what the back looks like, how it's pressed. The only thing left to do at this point is to sew our borders, G to the sides of the block and then H to the top and bottom of the block. Those borders will get pressed away from the center. Now do remember, if you are making the simplified block, you would have substituted a 3.5-inch square for the center during this step that we just did. And this block will measure 9.5 inches at this point. You will always find what your blocks or units should measure through each step of the pattern. So if you ever are coming up short or something isn't quite lining up, it's always a great idea to double check and make sure that at each step, everything is measuring what the pattern says that it will measure. Just gonna go add those borders and our block will be done. And our Sunny Greek square block is completed. Let's go ahead and take a look at this up close. Here is the sun-washed version and then the beautiful day version. These blocks are going to measure 12 inches square. Do take note of that. They will not measure 12.5 like what we often see. They will measure 12 inches and they will measure 11.5 finished within the quilt. You're going to see that specially noted at this step in every pattern each month because it is a little different than what we are used to seeing. So 12 inches square is what we want these to measure right now. And when we flip these over and look at the back, you can see how everything is pressed. And that wraps up month 2 for the Sunny Patches block of the month. Now, maybe you have just stumbled across this block of the month and it's not too late to join in, but you also might be thinking, this is kind of a cute block. I wonder what it would look like on its own. I will have digital renderings over on my blog today so that you can see how this block works up on its own within a quilt in case you want to use this in a different project. And of course, as I said, it's not too late to join in on the Sunny Patches block of the month. You'll find all of the details over on my blog. I'll have that linked in the description box below so that you can jump in if you want to. Our next block will release on the 3rd 3rd Saturday in May, so stop back then to get the next block instructions. And I thank you so much for stopping by today. I'll catch you again next time.